Hey guys, it's Emma Vigling with TYT Politics. Can you not tell? I'm actually repping my TYT shirt, so enjoy that. Go to Shop TYT and get yourself that TYT shirt. Sorry for the plug. But I really want to talk about Emmanuel Macron, who is the leader of France, now that he defeated Le Pen, and he's been lauded as the new leader of the free world. There's been kind of a vacuum left by America and the UK. By the way, the free world is just something that the West makes up, but whatever. There is a vacuum left because Trump has increasingly pursued these isolationist trade policies, some of them not a bad thing, and also has pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which the rest of the world is completely on board with. And of course, the UK had Brexit, and under Theresa May, they're pursuing similarly isolationist policies. So now France and Germany, I would say, are trying to fill that role as leading the rest of the West in this vacuum left by the UK and America. But Macron, when you put him next to Trump, or when you put him next to Theresa May, or his opponent Le Pen, he obviously seems like the best leader ever. And certainly compared to them, I think he is much better, especially his opponent Le Pen, who was incredibly racist, essentially a white nationalist, had Nazi ties, etc. But Macron is really a part of this toxic brand of neoliberalism that has led a lot of the globe down this disastrous path. And I think that toxic brand of neoliberalism was best exemplified in this really offensive statement that he gave about Africa recently at the G20 summit. He said,
qui avaient leurs équilibres, leurs frontières, leur stabilité. Le défi de l'Afrique, il est totalement différent, il est beaucoup plus profond, il est civilisationnel aujourd'hui. Quels sont les problèmes en Afrique? Les États faillis, les transitions démocratiques complexes, la transition démographique qui est, je l'ai rappelé ce matin, l'un des défis essentiels de l'Afrique. Quand des pays ont encore aujourd'hui 7 à 8 enfants par femme, vous pouvez décider d'y dépenser des milliards d'euros, vous ne stabiliserez rien.
Macron said this in response to an Ivory Coast journalist asking about France's aid to Africa. And what he said, in my opinion, was deeply offensive. Is it not any different than what Bill O'Reilly used to say on Fox News, blaming black culture for the poverty and violence that the black community is currently experiencing? They're blaming the symptoms of oppression on the inherent traits or culture of the oppressed. It's a step away from eugenics, and it's deeply offensive. And did Macron go to history class? France was a part of the colonization of Africa, a big part of it, where they cut up this continent into arbitrary states, ravaged its resources, brutalized its people, and when Africa tried to set up its own nation states, the West broke it down and tore it down because it wasn't beneficial to their trade and to their greed. So it is a deeply offensive statement by Macron, and a conservative one, and in my opinion, a part of this neoliberal paradigm where you basically talk about economic gains and blame people that aren't economically successful. It is a branch of conservatism. And it echoed comments made by Hillary Clinton about Africa when she was Secretary of State back in 2010.
I mean, for goodness sakes, this is the 21st century. You know, we got to get over what happened 50, 100, 200 years ago. And let's make money for everybody. That's the best way to try to create some new energy and some new growth in Africa. So.
She continued, saying, if you look at trade between African countries, it is abysmally minimalistic. African countries don't trade with themselves. They have barriers and tariffs and customs problems that stand in the way of developing their own economies. Another deeply offensive and arrogant comment about the continent of Africa, ignoring the West's whole role in the economic plight that many of these African countries are facing, the massive role that countries like the United States and France played in that economic despair, and blaming them for the despair that we caused. It's unbelievable to me. And that's because Macron and Hillary Clinton share the same ideology of neoliberalism. The Guardian explained neoliberalism extremely well. Neoliberalism sees competition as the defining characteristic of human relations. It redefines citizens as consumers whose democratic choices are best exercised by buying and selling, a process that rewards merit and punishes inefficiency. It maintains that the market delivers benefits that could never be achieved by planning. And that's what it is. Because some African countries are having a harder time catching up in an economic race that was rigged by the West from the beginning, they are inefficient and thus lesser. And that is an ideology that is pervasive, and it is an ideology that is encaptured by Hillary Clinton, or was. She's not really a relevant political figure anymore, hopefully, but it is being pursued and continued by Emmanuel Macron. Let's not let recency bias blind us. Just because Macron is better than the handful of world leaders that we look to right now does not mean that he is a great leader and someone that we should look to going forward. Le Pen was horrific. Theresa May, Trump, yes, he is better by comparison. But neoliberalism is destroying this planet, and he embodies that ideology. That's why he was so callous in his treatment of this African reporter, or in his response to this African reporter. I'm sure he treated him just fine. But that's what's important to remember. Just because he's better by comparison does not mean he's great. And you could say the same thing about the race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We must move beyond this neoliberal ideology. And my hope is that because Macron was facing such a monster in Le Pen, that this is really the last breath of neoliberalism. Brexit and Trump's election, while they were misguided, were a kick in the face to that neoliberalism ideology. And I hope that Macron is really the last leader that embodies this ideology, because we really seem to be moving beyond it as a globe, because we've all been so heavily punished by it.